Tucked away in America's small towns are hidden jewels of history, stories of resilience, heritage, and legacy that shaped our nation. In Hopkins, South Carolina, I visited the Harriet Barber House, a powerful symbol of freedom built on land purchased by formerly enslaved humans. I explored its beginnings and the inspiring preservation effort led by Barber family descendants, keeping this history alive for future generations. This is part 1 of 2, so make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to be alerted about the next video. Peace. I want to show you this sign, the Harriet Barber House. That's where we're at, the home of Reverend Samuel Barber and his wife, Harriet McPherson Barber. And the reason why it's called the Harriet Barber House is because she purchased or made the last payment for this property in 1879. And as you see right here, the land on which this house is located has remained in the same family since May 24th, 1872. And I came down this morning. We thought it was going to be a whole bunch of rain and some storming, but fortunately enough, that did not occur. So I want to show you all some of the acreage that's here right now as we walk up to the house. And we have this beautiful young lady right here. This is Carrie,
yes,
right? And we'll be talking with Sister Marie here shortly. But this is a house.
Yes, it is.
And
Welcome to the Harriet Barber House.
You have very, very fond memories at this house, I'm sure.
Yes, I do, as a child.
All right, good
Didn't
stuff.
really know the historical significance of it until I became an adult, actually.
So can you give us the landscape as you remember it as a child?
Very much like this. The only difference is my aunt, that's the firstborn of my grandparents, and she would plant all kinds of zinnias, beautiful, colorful flowers right along this path here. And a ramp was not here, of course.
Right.
This really actually was a part of the dining room, which was my favorite room as a child, because we would run up and down.
Yeah.
You know, and it just seemed to be a happier place, I guess because it had more windows.
Okay. And to my understanding, and we were talking about this off camera, when I was on your wall's website, I saw a big old tree that was there, but it's not here anymore, correct?
Sad to say, we hated to lose that tree. We asked our uncle, you know, during the time that the tree was in existence, how old it was, and he did not have an idea. So we're not sure, but it was a rarity to have that type of tree here.
Okay.
Because it's usually found in the swamp areas.
Yeah.
A sugarberry, hackberry tree.
That's the tree.
And its limbs were so big and thick, and it looked like each year when we had a whole lot of rain, we would lose one limb slowly each year.
Okay.
Yeah. And we'd have an arborist to come and check, and he would give us the sad news. Well, it's only a matter of time.
Yeah. But the house still stands.
Yes, the house is still
And
there.
there's 3 different distinct nominations that I'm seeing here. And as you all see, this is the National Register at the Barber House right there in South Carolina, and then Richland County Historic Landmark, and then also American Revolution Bicentennial Richland County Committee.
Yes. Yes, and that really kicked things off right there.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, one of our neighbors, the McCrackens, kind of urged my dad to, you know, fill out an application to be a part of the bicentennial.
Right.
And that, you know, everything started from there.
Everything started from
And
there.
that's when all of us realized, well, I know my dad might have known all the time, you know, the historical significance of this house and this property.
And how long ago was that? And that's
In
that's
the
something I wanted
mid-1980s.
in the 1980s. So prior to, your knowledge about this beautiful space was what?
It was our grandparents' house.
That's all
We're
you
going
knew?
over to Grandma's.
Okay, so these are, so Samuel and Harriet were your
great-grandparents.
Okay, they were your great-grandparents.
Yes.
Okay, so they were your great-grandparents.
Yes. And they were newly freed slaves.
Okay, yep. And so I want to get into that piece, right? We're here in South Carolina where we know Charleston was a major area in which enslaved individuals were, you know, brought from, you know, whether it's through the Caribbean or the continent of Africa and dispersed amongst various different places, unfortunately.
Yes.
Was the subject of enslavement discussed in your childhood?
Everything was a secret.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, my grandmother, I remember my father telling me that there was a time when he was a little boy running around, and there would be a visitor of the other race,
Okay.
male, who would come and visit periodically. And out of his curiosity, he would ask, well, Mom, who was that? And she would say, go play. She would never, ever tell him, per se, that, at least in our conversation.
Yeah.
My dad never told me that, she just came and said, okay, this was my father,
How remarkable is that you have two formerly enslaved human beings
Oh,
to
I'm
come
telling
and
you.
purchase this? Now, we were joking in there earlier. I want to show you all. Now, in the South, you got to have a good front porch so you can drink your lemonade and your iced tea and all that stuff,
And
right?
initially, this was screened in when I was a child.
Okay, so this was screened in as a
Yeah.
child. But when you look out and you have all this acreage, and when we talk about 40 acres and a mule, right, and what was to be promised, and it didn't occur, of course. President Andrew Johnson
Right.
came in and
Yes,
just
he
wiped
changed
that
a whole
out.
lot of things.
Yeah. How sentimental does that make this place for you, knowing that shortly after emancipation, your people were able to purchase this type of
It was almost like a
property?
miracle. And I guess the powers that be made it available for people of my race as well as other races to see how valuable acquiring property and holding on to it
Yeah.
meant to a newly freed person of
Yeah.
color.
And then that kind of, I would hope,
And then to
spilled
be
down
able-
to you to recognize how important
yes,
as well. Yeah.
Yes, and then we have visitors. We've had children here from different schools over the years, and they get to see just how life was,
Yeah,
back during that day.
most definitely. So can we take a look on the
Yes,
inside?
come right on in.
All right, let's go.
Okay.
I'll step in first.
All right.
Wow.
All right.
Wow.
Let's see. Let's cut the light on. Let me give us some more light.
Okay.
So you could see it better.
Did anyone in particular make this Barber family reunion blanket?
A friend.
A friend, okay.
Well, no, a relative. A relative.
Okay.
I don't know. Let's see. I don't know what happened to the lights.
Check this out,
Marie,
y'all.
Marie?
This is what I'm talking about
The
right
lights.
here.
Turn it on manually. Pull.
Oh, just
Oh, this one right
pull.
here?
Okay.
Okay.
I was wondering.
All right. Boom.
All right.
Now
That's
there's
much
light.
better.
And I'm sure at one point in time there wasn't any light
Okay,
in this.
I'll do that. I'll do the one in
throughout
here,
this
too.
house. I'm sure there wasn't any electricity.
No, usually kerosene or candle.
Okay. And that's
There you
Marie,
go.
y'all. We're going to talk to her in a
All
little
right.
bit. All right. Talk to us.
Okay. All right. This is the original part of the house that Sam and Harriet built. And we are so blessed, really, to have it. Now, when I was a child, the shingles were made of wood.
Okay.
I remember that. And again, I remember standing out front, where you were originally, and just looking up. I said, gosh, that's made out of wood, as a child, thinking. But anyway, getting back to the room, when we were children, this part of the house was like a shrine, so to speak. My grandparents treated it as such. But you see the different artifacts.
Yeah.
We have documents dating back to the 1800s. We have documents showing great grandma Harriet, giving an ox as a last payment on the house. Evidently, money was very, very tight then.
Yeah.
And
And it says a black ox, right?
yes, it says Black Ox right there.
So in order for her to purchase this, in order for her to own this land outright, her last form of payment was a black ox.
Yeah, they were able to accept the Black Ox for payment.
Wow.
Yes. And I guess, in previous years when my great-grandfather was probably living, they were able to acquire, monies because he was not only a well digger, but a preacher as well.
And he was born in 1802.
Yes, we're kind of guessing that might have been the time.
Okay.
And here we have all of my father's siblings. And my dad was one of 11. And, born to my grandfather, who is the youngest child of Sam and Harriet.
Okay.
Okay.
And this is
And-
Samuel and Harriet's youngest child.
Yes.
This
yes,
brother right here.
Right.
And that's his wife, of
And
course.
that's his wife, my grandmother, Mamie Holly Barber.
Okay.
Yes. And then these are current awards that we've
Mm-hmm.
received over the years, for the historical significance of this house.
Gotcha.
And then for the tree that you were inquiring about, it won the Treasured Tree Award in its glory.
Ah, as you all see right here.
And we were invited to the governor's mansion.
I never knew that they had an award for that.
Yes, they did. Every year. We didn't either until we got a notification.
I'm sure that was pretty
And
weird
we were,
opening that up, right?
We get to go and, go to the governor's mansion and have, lunch.
Yeah.
And get honored in that way. So that was a thrill.
Okay.
And this gentleman that you see here is the one who restored this part of the house, or
Okay.
all of the house, actually.
Now, is he a relative?
And no, Johnny Martin was a construction worker that was recommended by the Costa out of Charleston.
Okay.
And you know how famous he was.
Yeah.
He's a historian himself. And he must have done some work, impressive work with him. And that's who he recommended to my sister.
Nice. So when I look at these walls, when you think back to being a child, was this typical for other homes in the area that you would be in, whether it's visiting relatives
In
or?
my
Okay.
grandparents' home on my mother's side, yes.
Okay.
This was sheetrocked when we were kids.
Okay. And then they stripped it
sheetrock.
down.
Yeah.
And so
Mr.
when
Martin wanted to strip it down so that visitors could see.
when it was unveiled, what were your thoughts? Were you like,
Wow.
man, this is a blast?
Yeah.
In the past,
It
or-
was fascinating. I said, gosh, visitors will get to see. And they're really blown away
Yeah.
when they, come in to see this portion of the house.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. And again, this was my uncle. He was our patriarch. We would always, if we had certain questions, he would have, answers to the best of his knowledge.
Sure.
And he's named after my grandfather, John Benjamin Barber Jr.
Okay.
This is my grandparents' marriage license. Have you ever seen a marriage license in the form of a painting?
No, I have not. They said
And it has
we're
the
gonna
date
really
and everything.
solidify this.
Yes,
Okay.
it's amazing.
Now, how many times did you get in trouble for playing in this room, you and your sisters?
Oh,
Or were y'all
we
sitting
didn't
on
get
your
in a whole lot
hands?
of trouble. Now, some of our cousins who lived here, who stayed with my grandparents, they tell stories about, their punishment. My grandmother didn't play.
Okay.
Yeah, my grandfather didn't have to do that much because she was
On
like the
top of it.
disciplinarian.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And again, these were the original. This is the original. Two
This is the
rooms.
original part of the house built in 1882.
Okay.
This is the second room. And many of the artifacts that you see were donations. Because a lot of this was originally a bedroom when I was little. I think when my parents went to Detroit to visit most of my dad's brothers, lived up there. They were part of that migration.
Yep. Yep.
We stayed, a week with her, with my grandmother. And two of us stayed in this bedroom.
Okay.
But
Where?
well, see,
Y'all
this
make
was a
pallets on the
bedroom.
floor?
No, this was it was enough room for a bed.
Okay. Okay.
And really, the dresser was just like this.
Wow. Now, let me ask you, as it relates to how this looks right now, how much of this do you have a very vivid memory of being?
The sewing machine, for one thing. My grandmother had a twin, and I would visually see her coming in, smiling. She was always the bubbly one. My grandmother was more of a serious type. I would see her at the sewing machine, smiling and talking and humming.
Right.
That kind of thing.
Right. And those are just the memories that, of course, you
Yes.
just can't.
It-
Like
You
it's
always
just
have.
Yeah, I feel like
Thank
everyone at
God
some
for the
point of time
memories.
in their life has
Yes.
just those catalysts, those moments that you just never forget.
That's
and I'm
it.
sure that this is
That's
it for you.
That's absolutely it. These were donations. Now, we have another sewing machine, but it's in, we don't have room for all
Yeah.
of the artifacts. Hopefully, with funding, we'll be able to restore the garage that we'll see when we go back outside.
Well, let me ask you this question. So I see this right here. Carry me back to old Virginia.
Yeah.
And so Samuel, the Barbers were out of Virginia?
Sam Barber is believed to migrated here from Blackstone, Virginia.
Now that
all we
was
know.
post-emancipation or pre-emancipation that he
I
was
think it
brought
was
here with
pre.
his enslaver?
I think it was pre. Now Marie may clarify a little bit,
Okay.
but I think it was pre.
Okay. And for folks who don't know, when they talk about old Virginia, they're talking about Virginia.
Yes.
That's a pretty common
Yes.
term that's
Term
used
for
back
it.
then.
Absolutely. And these are various other donations that were delivered. That were given. The McCrackens also donated this little mini wardrobe, so to speak.
Yeah.
And right here, do you recognize what that is?
This is for thread.
Yeah, but
Oh, the pot. That's the bathroom pot.
that's it.
That's the bathroom pot.
That was
There
your
we go,
bathroom
here we
right
go.
there. The slop job. We call it the slop job.
Yep. That's it.
Yeah.
So I hate to have to ask this question, but did you ever have to use this slop?
Not
job?
that one.
Okay. And there was an outhouse on the property as well, right?
Yes.
Did you have to use the outhouse?
Yes, I
Okay.
remember those days. Yeah.
Okay, so you, not fine days.
No, but being a child,
Yeah.
you grow accustomed to such things.
There was a tree that was out here at one point of time. I saw it on you all's website, and we discussed it briefly inside. Where was that tree standing, and what was the significance?
I ended up tripping over the area every time we have the festival.
Oh,
here,
I see it right
in
here.
this area, and the limb. You see where this bent part on the garage? One of the limbs hit that.
Oh, wow.
That was the first limb that fell. The limbs were so huge; they were thick like that.
Really?
And it would reach all the way over there. All this was shaded. It was just a beautiful tree. Sugarberry, hackberry.
Would you climb it as a kid?
No.
No?
It was, it was kind of like this little, when I was little. It looked kind of like that.
Okay.
You
But
know,
then
just like a
obviously
switch,
it
so to
blossomed
speak.
and...
Yeah. And then all of a sudden it ended up like the pecan trees that you see here. See how thick the limbs are?
Yes, I do.
Something like that. And then we had some college professors to come to visit the property, and they were walking the grounds. Didn't realize this was back here. It used to be a chicken coop here, and a plum tree that had the best plums.
Were they
were
sweet?
delicious.
I know they were.
Yeah, right up in this area. And then we learned about the catawba tree.
Okay.
And during the summer, it has something that looks like long string beans. And people would use it for fishing and for smoking.
Really?
That's what this professor told me. I said, "Whoa, I didn't know that."
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay.
used to be a fig tree here. And again, the RVs that my
come
sister
right there.
talked about later, that would be all around the perimeter of the property.
And these folks are all family.
These are Barber family
they're all
members.
So y'all know when somebody come down this road, if it ain't a car that y'all know,
That's it.
to
That's
sound
it.
the alarm, right?
That's it. And I think, they help protect things too as well. Yeah.
And so this part right here was, of course, the addition
Yeah.
to the house. But your sister had mentioned...
it was always there. It used to be a little small bedroom, but it was not. We didn't reconstruct that at all.
Okay. Your sister had mentioned that outside of the kitchen that your grandmother would be looking out.
Yeah, this is the kitchen window
so this
here.
was the kitchen right here. Okay. And
Yeah.
would be looking out and could see whenever
Seeing
anyone
her
would come
twin
up to the
at Lil.
to the back porch or what have you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was her favorite spot.
Yeah.
She would always be there.
How far back does this property go today?
You see all this right here? You see where these trees are? That's the border.
That's the border.
And also here's some tools that you might find interesting. A wagon wheel.
Yeah.
They didn't throw anything away. That's what I noticed about my
So I'm sure y'all been in here and have looked at everything.
Oh
right?
yeah. Oh, see, my grandpa used to park his gray DeSoto, gray on gray in gray. I'd never forget a ride that all of us went on. And everything was just gray everywhere.
Yeah.
And he would drive at about 10 miles an hour.
Okay.
And we'd want him to step on it. He never would. He would go maybe 5 miles more. Oh.
And you all utilize this pavilion as a place to
Yes.
educate
Yes.
school groups whenever they may come.
And during the festival, the stage is put here. And we would have vendors food trucks and everything. People selling their jewelry, paintings, all kinds of things that you'd find at a festival.
Yeah.
And the RVs would be all over the place.
Okay.
All over here.
So that's what we're
all
going to expect for
around.
October.
And then Juneteenth is going to be on the 21st. And I have a newsletter for you that has Juneteenth on it, so you
Okay.
can see some of the things that we've done during that time.
Would love to see it. So who's the barbecue master out here?
Big T.
Big T.
Big T.
Okay.
He has a branch in Gadsden, where you were headed if you kept going. And then he has one in town on Garner's Ferry.
Okay.
Yep.
So
As a
all-
matter of fact, you'll pass by it going back to the I.
Okay. So as you all see,
And these are pecan trees.
okay,
that
these
used
are
to be.
pecan trees. That one's
Used to be.
gone.
Yeah.
But this would be the property.
Yeah. All of this where the trees border it.
Man, you got a football field out here. Yeah.
Yeah, and then, the open area, we would have chairs and stuff, a big tent, or several tents, sometimes
Yeah.
it depends. Yeah, and the entertainers would, be on the stage and stuff. You could hear
Where
the music all over the place.
During the time period, how many more homes were erected beside your grandparents' home? Or was it just this one
Just this one.
that just had all this beautiful greenery?
See, this used to be cotton field.
Okay.
I remember because my back would tell me. Yeah, I would have my sack. Could never get 100 pounds.
Yeah, that was the standard.
Could never do that.
Could
Could
never
never
do
get it. Could never pick it
Yeah.
that much.
Well, I feel like we've done enough of that. So.
Yeah, yeah.
So this was the first part, everyone. The sisters are like a WWE tag team tandem, and we're gonna pass the mic off.
Minus one.
Minus one, right? There's
my
one
twin,
more,
who
right?
really talks.
Okay. So we're going to switch the mic on over, but we greatly appreciate you for this portion, and we're going to move over into the other portion. Cool.
And many of the people, the elderly people who were in our lives when we were children, were dressed like this.
This right here. Okay.
She did tell you she did the art.
No, I didn't tell her that. Tell her that.
You did the artwork. Oh, so you're an artist as well.
She just happened to miss
Okay.
that.
Right.
That's what happened to follow up.
Yeah, so you got to make sure she's getting all her accolades and everything.
Didn't
Yeah.
you want to give us that?
I
Isn't
know
that
it.
something? Oh, well,
We're so humble.
Yeah, we try to be.